Hello, I'm Kevin Zettel, a technical marketing engineer at Infoblox, and today we're here to talk about Infoblox's new integration with Aruba ClearPass. First, I'll give you an overview of the integration. Then I'll give you some use cases for that integration. After that, I'll show you how to set everything up and show you a working example. Finally, I'll tell you where to find additional information that you might want. With Outbound API, we're now able to respond faster to infected devices with the help of Infoblox's ecosystem license. Using Aruba ClearPass, security administrators can now view devices that come onto the network that were discovered by Infoblox. Currently, there are many endpoints that move around the network, causing havoc for security and network teams. Companies invest heavily into tools designed to help address this issue. But there is a lack of ease and timely access to network changes to take the right action when more than 90% of malware uses DNS to carry out its campaigns, making for a lack of useful data and network automation. The benefit of this integration include quick and relevant response to minimize the spread of infection on vital devices with active discovery of those devices while eliminating the silos between network and security tools. Now let's look at the first use case. Here, a client sends a query to the Infoblox grid. Next, the query is blocked by Infoblox. Infoblox ecosystem templates are then triggered, sending information to Aruba ClearPass. Finally, using Aruba ClearPass, you can see the security event that occurred on the device. Now let's see that in action. Here I'm making a simple dig request to example.com, and here you can see that NX domain was handed out by Infoblox appliance, and in this case showing that Infoblox blocked the request. Then on Aruba side, after hitting refresh, the endpoint was added with information on the security event. Then back on Infoblox's side, after the event occurs, a timestamp was added. Now let's look at the second use case. Here Infoblox Network Insight found information about an endpoint. Note, Network Insight is not necessary for integration, but rather provides additional information. Next, an administrator decides to create an asset for the endpoint on the Infoblox grid. This causes the ecosystem templates to be triggered and send information to Aruba ClearPass with information about the endpoint. Also take note that the integration works with least fixed IP addresses and as well as host events. Now let's see that in action. Here we can see that I already have discovered devices on the network. When I create a host for one of these devices, in this case called test.example.com, that contains a MAC address, the information will be sent over to Aruba ClearPass. When hopping over to Aruba ClearPass, we can see that test.example.com was added with the correct MAC address, and information about the device was populated into the Aruba ClearPass endpoint. Hopping back over to Infoblox side and hitting refresh, we can see that a timestamp was added. This timestamp allows us to keep track of devices that were synced with Aruba ClearPass. Now let's see how to set everything up. First, you want to go to community.infoblox.com and download the templates for the Aruba ClearPass integration. Second, you want to set up your Aruba ClearPass side for the integration by adding attributes and the API client. Finally, you want to set up your Infoblox appliance for the integration. Start by adding some extensible attributes, then adding the templates, adding the endpoint, and then finally adding the notifications. Now let me show you how to set everything up. The first part of the integration is to set up Aruba ClearPass side. In the Policy Manager, you want to go to Administration, Dictionaries, Attributes, and here you want to add several attributes, which you can find in the ClearPass Deployment Guide found on the Infoblox community website. Next, in the ClearPass Guest, you want to go to Administration, API Services, API Clients, and here you want to add an API client by clicking the Create API Client. When creating the API client, make sure that the client ID and the client secret match the session template variables shown earlier. You can add a description, enable the API client, make the operator profile to the correct profile, make the grant type client credentials, and dictate how long the token's lifetime will last. To find out the permissions required for the operator profile, make sure to refer to the Aruba ClearPass Deployment Guide. Now let's see how to set up the Infoblox side. First, we want to go to Administration, Extensible Attributes, and here you'll add 5 extensible attributes. Aruba's last security event tells you the last time the security event occurred. Aruba Location lets you pick the location of the asset. Aruba Secure lets you decide if you want to update the information on Aruba ClearPass side when security events occur. Aruba Sync lets you decide if you want to update information on Aruba ClearPass site when assets are created on Infoblox side. Aruba Sync Dat lets you know when the asset was updated on Aruba ClearPass. Next, you want to go to Grid, Ecosystem, Templates. Here you can see that the templates that are available on the Infoblox community site at community.infoblox.com. You can pick and choose which templates you want based on the events you want to update on Aruba ClearPass. Here I'm showing you the templates are just a simple JSON file with some simple logic. You can control this logic with instance variables. For the asset template, here you can see there are no instance variables. However, when moving to the security template, we see that we have one instance variable called threat severity. Threat severity lets you decide the severity attribute on Aruba ClearPass. Now back to Infoblox's side. Here we want to go to App and Endpoint, and here we want to add an endpoint. Inside the endpoint, we see that you need to add a URL for the appliance you're integrating with, and then add the name and vendor type for the endpoint. Next, you want to add the username and password for the appliance you are integrating with, and then add the username and password for the Infoblox appliance you're using with the integration. The reason for the credentials is to allow the integration to push and pull information from the Infoblox appliance. It is important that you give the credentials of an account that has permission to access IPv4 and IPv6 fixed IPs and all host information. Next, for demo purposes, we are not using any certificates, and we are using the current Gridmaster. However, for best practices, it is suggested that you use the Gridmaster candidate. Moving on to the next tab under Session Management, we have a log level set to debug for demo purposes. However, it is suggested that we have the log level set to info or higher. Finally, you will want to select the session template, and then you will see that there are two endpoint variables associated with the template, client ID and key. Client ID is the client ID of the API client that you will create with Aruba. Key will be the client secret when the API client is made. Next, we want to go to Notifications. Here, you can decide the type of events you want to have trigger the ecosystem template. Under the General tab, you can see things like the name of the targeted endpoint. Here we can see the Aruba ClearPass endpoint I just showed. Next, under Rules, you can decide the event and the rules you want to have trigger the template. In this case, DNS RPZ events that have a rule name that contains local RPZ will trigger the template. Next, the Deduplication tab is used to eliminate duplicate information that you may not want to have trigger the template multiple times. Simply click Enable RPZ Event Deduplication, choose if you want to log the events, and then choose by which attribute events should be deduplicated. Finally, under the templates, you can decide which templates you want to have triggered when the rule is matched. Once you choose the template, you're given the instance variables to that template. Now that everything is set up, let's see how it works. First, I'm going to show you how assets are added to Aruba ClearPass. In this case, I'm going to show you that when a new lease is created on Infoblox, the endpoint is added to Aruba ClearPass. Here I'm simply starting connection to the Ubuntu machine that I have set up for demo purposes. After waiting a few seconds, I'll then go to Aruba ClearPass and refresh the endpoints. We can see now that the endpoint was added with information on the lease. Finally, I'll be showing you that when an endpoint tries to access a website that is not allowed to be accessed, or a website that is being monitored, the Infoblox will update Aruba ClearPass with information on the security event. In this case, I'm going to make a dig request to example.com, and here we can see that NX domain was handed out by an Infoblox appliance. Then, on Aruba's side, after we hit refresh, we can look into the endpoint and see that the endpoint was populated with information on the security event that just occurred. Then, when hopping over to the Infoblox side, we can see a security event occurred and a timestamp was added. If you can take away one thing from this video, it's that Infoblox and Aruba ClearPass integration gives you the visibility into new devices and infected hosts while proactively identifying new assets on your network, and helping to eliminate the silos between network and security tools. Well, thank you for watching. All documentation related to the Infoblox and Aruba ClearPass integration can be found on the Infoblox community website. If you have any other concerns or questions, you can find me or any of the other experts at Infoblox on the Infoblox community website. Thank you for your time and have a great rest of your day.